Thank you very much. I think I've been upgraded, which is quite exciting. All our best wishes to Emma, who can be with us, and also hello to Rebecca online, if she's able to join us. So you just got me. We've slightly shortened the session, I believe, because we're going to look at diversity interventions outside of higher education. And that includes a huge amount, obviously. So I will speak to what we're doing in the engineering profession, engineering sectors, and I'll endeavour to answer any questions that stray beyond that as well, because it could encompass quite a lot. But just a little brief introduction to the Academy, the Royal Academy of Engineering. So we are the UK's National Academy for Engineering and Technology. We provide leadership for engineering and independent expert advice to government in the UK and beyond. Also a charity, and we're a fellowship, so we bring together a community of leading business people, entrepreneurs, innovators and academics from every part of engineering and technology. You'll all be aware, no doubt, of the diversity challenge facing the engineering profession. Engineering has both a significant skills shortfall, but also a serious diversity deficit, with a workforce that is still only 16.5% women and 10% Black, minority, Asian minority ethnic. The pace of change is really slow. And we know that diversity and inclusion helps engineering companies to attract and keep more staff, to innovate better, to be more creative, and be more profitable. And engineering needs people with different experiences, ideas, perspectives, to make sure that we're in the best position to respond with the most innovative solutions to the problems our world is facing now and will face in the future. So diversity and inclusion is a key priority for the Academy. Our overarching goal for 2025 is to harness the power of engineering to build a sustainable society and an inclusive economy for everyone. And we're working with partners, including engineering companies and professional engineering institutions, to boost the numbers and the diversity of those both entering engineering careers, but also to catalyse a step change in the diversity of the workforce and to increase the prevalence of inclusive cultures across the engineering industry. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a flavour of some of the programmes and interventions that we're running, both on our own but also in partnership with other organisations as well. So, moving on to just have a brief look at what we're doing kind of internally. So one of our interventions is our Fellowship Fit for the Future initiative. So to provide leadership on diversity and inclusion to the engineering profession, then we need to act with integrity from a credible platform and walk the walk, as someone mentioned earlier. So this involves learning from our own diversity and inclusion data, examining and reflecting on our own activities and practices to remove barriers to inclusion, and making sure that we're embedding best practice across all of our programs, our activities and our operations. So one of our interventions that we launched in 2020 was our Fellowship Fit for the Future initiative, which aims to diversify our fellowship and drive more nominations of outstanding engineers from underrepresented groups. So we've completed the first year of the initiative, which we launched in 2020, and we announced the first new fellows elected under this campaign, and we were pleased to see 50% of new fellows elected from our target underrepresented groups. And those were candidates from women, disabled, LGBTQ engineers, engineers from minority ethnic backgrounds, as well as those that have perhaps come into engineering through a non-traditional pathway, or achieving excellence at an early career stage as well. And internally, we also embed diversity and inclusion through our activities through department action plans, where each team annually sets goals and tracks progress against them. We collect data, and we use a number of tools and frameworks to support our work, including the progression framework, which I'll mention a little bit more in a minute. We also are signatories to the Race at Work Charter and Disability Confident Employer as well. So a large focus of our diversity work is engaging engineering companies and engineers in industry. And over the last few years, we've had our diversity programs running for kind of eight to 9 years or so. But over the last couple of years, we've pivoted from a focus on co-producing content, primarily co-producing content, with engineering companies such as toolkits and resources to engaging companies, large and small, in different ways. And this includes building coalitions, regional activities and networking, trying to move from awareness raising to actually getting those toolkits and resources used, implemented and seeing a change on the ground. So I'll mention two of our programs in our industry space. One is our new and exciting EDI toolkit for startups and scale-ups, and the other is our graduate engineering engagement program, which is JEEP. So our toolkit, this is a new program for us. We've started about 6 months ago, and it aims to embed and sustain equality, diversity and inclusion in startups and scale-ups across the engineering community from the outset. And in engineering, the number of SMEs is very, very high. We have over 90% of engineering enterprises are SMEs. So you're thinking about long supply chains and that kind of in that area, all feeding up into those larger companies. So we're aiming to get to startups and scale-ups as they grow. So we're looking at embedding diversity and inclusion into their core values when they start, into their processes and their systems when they're really small, so they grow inclusively. It's much harder to retrofit an inclusive culture. If you've started off with a couple of people in a startup or scale-up, you're now 50, and then you're trying to kind of retrofit that back. So over the last 6 months, we've, to help and kind of inform the development and the design of the program, we've undertaken a number of research activities to help us better understand the needs of micro businesses and what the focus of the toolkit should be. So this has included surveys, focus groups. We've also had a number of our Enterprise Hub members test out different platforms on the market to see what really works for a small company, for a small organisation in terms of driving change on diversity and inclusion. And we've undertaken a literature review of all the available toolkits in the market to see what they've got around impact and try and assess what works in terms of with something with a focus on the kind of small business side. So as a result of this scoping exercise we've done over the last 6 months, we're going to be developing an online platform to host and enable access to a bespoke EDI toolkit, which will be tailored to the needs of startups and scale-ups. And they will be moving through a journey as part of that with access to resources, with access to kind of peer networking, but also using kind of behavioural nudge theory to kind of nudge change at different points, at different interventions as they grow and are considering different things around talent acquisition or product development, for example. So over the next year, we'll be working with the provider to design and develop the toolkit platform and the supporting resources, and working with a group of users to help test the platform through the pilot phase, with the intention that we'll be launching in 2023. And in terms of measuring impact, we're developing a theory of change for the overall toolkit, including producing metrics on how to measure the impact of the pilot phase, and then beyond that, an evaluation framework which integrates appropriately with the platform. And we're quite excited about this. There's a lot of potential. The scale is potentially huge, but we're taking the time now to really develop and test and make sure it works and it responds to both the needs of small organisations and engineering startups and scale-ups, but it also makes that difference. It really drives the change in those organisations. So that's one of the interventions that I'm talking about. The next one is our graduate engineering engagement programme. So we at JEEP, or GEEP, depending on your preference. So we engage around 15 companies a year through this programme, and it's our award-winning flagship programme. It's aimed at increasing the transition of engineering graduates, undergraduates and graduates, from diverse backgrounds into engineering careers. So in order to develop this program's about 6 or 7 years old now, we used data on the transition rates of students to help inform the programme. For example, students from minority ethnic backgrounds are less likely, particularly students from black backgrounds are significantly less likely to move from studying engineering into an engineering career. So we use the data to help inform the kind of programme design. So we work with company partners and with our delivery partner, Windsor Fellowship, and Kevin is here, hello, to help examine their own practices to ensure that they are creating an inclusive culture where our students, but also those from other minoritized groups, can thrive. And if you want to find out more about the programme, I can talk to you separately later as well, but I'm aware of time, so I'll move on. So across our work, we want to make sure that we're really informed by a robust evidence base for change. So we undertake different pieces of research. Last year, we undertook the Hamilton Commission Research Project, which we did in partnership with Lewis Hamilton, the Formula One driver. And our goal is to have an informed engineering profession with the confidence and the capacity to increase diversity and inclusion. So we undertake research to help inform our activities but build that evidence base. So on our Research and Insights programme, which we've beefed up in recent months, we undertook a consultation recently with key stakeholders to help us define what research questions to explore. And our first research activity will be our Inclusive Cultures Survey, which we are about to rerun, and I'll mention a little bit more about that in a minute. I've mentioned before toolkits, guidance, resources. Over the last few years, we've developed quite a large set of those around different topics, including inclusive recruitment, inclusive culture, measuring progress and using data to measure progress, and also recommendations to address the gender pay gap. And I've got on the slide the Diversity Impact Programme, and I'm not allowed to really mention it because it's actually an intervention in HE, in higher education, but I've just put it on there, so if you want to find out more, you can come and speak to me, but it's funding for engineering departments in universities to address unequal outcomes of students from minoritized backgrounds. And the next round will open up later this year. And finally, we use a number of tools and frameworks, and I mentioned the progression framework before. This is a maturity model for professional engineering and science bodies. We work with the Science Council on this one, and it's a tool to track progress on diversity and inclusion. And we recently undertook a benchmarking exercise for the sectors, and we're using the findings of that benchmarking exercise to collectively address areas for development, which include, and it's a continual theme around how to best collect data and use it effectively, and that's an area that the professional and engineering institutions are always looking to kind of learn more on. So I mentioned the Inclusive Culture Survey. So we conducted research in 2017 and surveyed 7,000 engineers to examine how included they felt in the profession. And not surprisingly, how included you felt depended on where you stood. So women engineers felt less included than men engineers, disabled engineers less included than those without a disability, and so on. And this research, when we did it in 2017, has informed a large number of our activities, including toolkits and resources. Now, there's some on the next slide, which I'll show to you next. But we want to see 5 years on what, if anything, has changed in terms of the inclusivity of the engineering profession. So we've commissioned a research study on the current culture of inclusivity in the profession to bring up to date, kind of review and bring up to date our research. So the research aims to give insight into the extent to which engineers with different diversity characteristics feel included, if the differences can be understood in relation to individual characteristics, sector, seniority, or any other variable combination or intersection of characteristics as well, and what progress has been made since 2017. So we've already conducted some focus groups and in-depth interviews with engineers, as well as those working on engineering projects and HR leads in engineering organisations as well. And our survey for this round will go out on the 25th of April. It's open to all engineers in industry and academia, so please do help share once it's live. And the final report will be released in the autumn, and with recommendations specific to engineering organisations of varying sizes. So I mentioned just some of the kind of outputs from the last Inclusive Cultures research. So just some of those on the slide now. So our Inclusive Cultures Toolkit, a set of resources about about supporting and being a majority ally, as well as a team workshop series for project teams coming together, kind of like a lunch and learn series that can be run. And we'll be looking to update, refresh, and expand on these using the findings of our current research. So finally, our network of champions. So we're building a network across the engineering profession advocating for improved diversity and inclusion. And as well as increasing the number of training and networking events convened at a national and a regional level. Some of our new programs also include a new Inclusive Leaders program to support mid and senior leaders to embed inclusive practices in their organisations, which we're quite exciting about. So we're in the scoping and designing phase of that program at the moment. We'll also be, we've just launched, or getting started, our alumni program. We have well over 1,000 plus engineering undergraduates and graduates now who've taken part in the last 6 years in our JEEP program. So bringing them together, many of them are now in engineering roles, so looking to see how they can support future generations of engineers. And joining up diversity and inclusion practitioners in engineering companies and organisations to share best practice and collaborate as well. So I'll just end by saying that success for us is dependent and very much kind of reliant on working closely in partnership and collaboration with lots of different organisations across engineering. We work closely with membership and community organisations like the Association for Black and Minority Ethnic Engineers, AFBE, Women's Engineering Society, Inter-Engineering, as well as engineering companies, university engineering departments, funders, professional engineering institutions, as well as engineers themselves. So very much a collaborative effort, and we've got lots of new exciting programs coming up that I'd be very happy to talk to you about if anyone wants to grab me in a break. But I'll stop there for the moment. Thank you.